A lot of people don't know that their PowerPoint template could be so much easier to use by both designers and non-designers if the color palette was designed a little more thoughtfully. Because the color palette isn't just made up of the brand colors, they also need to be programmed in a certain order. Let's get into it. First, we're going to open the theme colors menu. If you're not already in the slide master, go to view and then click on slide master. On the left-hand sidebar, make sure you have the slide master selected. Click colors and then customize colors. The theme colors menu is where you program how colors should appear on both the front and back end. So let's get to know this menu. There's a lot going on here. There's theme colors and then sample. Under theme colors, there are 12 colors, 2 light, 2 dark, 6 accent colors, and hyperlink and followed hyperlink colors. The dark and light colors are called text/background because they work together to ensure that your text is visible against a light or dark background. On the right side, called sample, PowerPoint previews the way dark color text and the accent colors will look on light backgrounds and how light color text and the accent colors will look on dark backgrounds. Specifically, it's showing you text/background dark 2 as a background with text/background light 1 as the text color. And it's showing you text/background light 2 as a background with text/background dark 1 as the text color. So you can see if you have enough contrast between these colors for your text to be easily legible. But wait, why is there a bar chart here using the accent 1 through 6 colors? Let's look at the color palette on the front end for the answer. Now you don't have to exit the slide master. I'll put them side by side here for you. So like I said, the first 4 are text and background colors, but on the color palette, the light and dark text and background colors are reversed. And it's not clear why they did that. There's no reason I could figure out. It just seems to be yet another thing that's weird about PowerPoint, which is why I'm making these videos, to help you avoid these pitfalls. Next, we have our accent colors. Charts automatically populate with accent colors in order from left to right. Accents 1, then 2, then 3, then so on through 6. So think about how they'll look next to each other when creating your color palette. This is why the order in which you put theme colors matters. You can't just pop them in randomly. I mean, like you can, but you'll cause yourself and potentially your client a bunch of trouble later on. So like, don't. Because not only does it matter for charts and stuff, but each accent color gets mapped onto the thing, whether it's a shape, a line, text, a chart, anything using its color. Here's an example from a real client, which has been de-identified to protect the innocent. In this example, these shapes aren't really blue and green and so on. They're accent 1 color, which happens to be mapped to blue in this theme. Accent 2 is mapped to this teal in this theme. But let's say we have a rebrand, which this client actually needed to do in the middle of the project. So I went in and reskinned it for them, which was obviously going to change the theme colors. This is a very common situation when designing PowerPoint slides for B2B. Accent color 1 is now this dark violet, and accent color 2 is now a slightly less dark, kind of a medium violet. And when we change accent 1 in the theme to dark violet, the objects that were blue are still accent 1, and the objects that were teal are still accent 2. It's just that accent 1 is now dark violet, and accent 2 is now this violet. Changing the theme changes the things that are accent 1 throughout the whole deck, and the things that are accent 2 throughout the whole deck. The same thing happens with these background colors and tints. This background 2 is the new background 2, and these tints and shades map onto the new tint or shade. What about the ones that didn't change though? These colors weren't in the palette at all, so they didn't change because they weren't linked to any of the theme accent colors, tints, or shades, so they had nowhere to go. But look at this new violet theme. Accents 3 through 6 have great differentiation actually, but the new accent 1 and accent 2 are pretty low differentiation when viewed next to each other. Now I know that one is clearly darker than the other, but those first 2 positions in the chart are going to be both violet. If I was to pop a chart in here like we did earlier, you can see them next to each other, and you can see why this might cause a problem, since a client usually wants to order the data from most to least significant, whether that means highest to lowest or their brand first compared against competitors. My instinct here would be to use accent 2 in this first accent 1 place because it's going to come forward more, that dark dark bar, it gets lost here. That second position is pretty meaningful in a chart, and it should be something that contrasts with that first bar on more than just it being pretty nearly black, actually. Perhaps this blue or this green would be a better choice. So depending on the brand guidelines, you're going to have to figure out where to put these colors in the palette so that the non-designers we're designing for aren't going to feel compelled to go in and manually recolor every single chart they make because their template just wasn't designed thoughtfully. So we should come up with a consistent best practice to prevent that situation so our templates are predictable and thoughtful. A color order that's as consistent as can be from client to client means that when we update or fix slides for clients, colors won't shift unpredictably or end up being low contrast or clashy. And if they are, it's super clear how to quickly fix them and remap colors so everything works rather than wasting hours fixing every single individual slide and every single individual object. So always put theme colors in the same order on every template. Here's what I use. You might come up with a different standard of your own. Light background 1, dark text 1. So this is your darkest dark and your lightest light in your color palette. Typically, this is black and white or something very close to it. Just know that if you don't put black and white in the palette, they'll always have to be manually created when needed, which sounds easy for us, but if you're designing for non-designers, 1, it could be a pain, and 2, you'll have people creating random colors they think look close enough to black or white. Great way to break brand consistency. Next is light background 2 and dark text 2. And this is your darkest and lightest neutrals other than black and white. Next are your primary brand colors, the key colors that characterize the brand identity. And typically they're designed to work powerfully together and look beautiful together. There might not always be great contrast between them though, as we saw. So be mindful of that. And then you have secondary brand colors, the colors that complement and harmonize with the primaries. If you have low contrast primaries, consider trading places and swapping one of these in to accent 1 or 2 to fix the low contrast problem. So those are the 10 colors in the theme. But what's going on with those hyperlink colors? I'll come back to these in a minute. Let's create our color palette. Finally. So go back to the slide master, go to colors and customize colors and select the color you'd like to change. Click more colors. Paste in the RGB code or hex code. No pound sign is needed. If you use hex, just check, verify that it converted to the correct equivalent RGB code and adjust this if needed. You'd have to do this for each color individually. Give it a name. I like to name it for the brand so it's easy to find. Click save and you're done. But before you do that, I promised I'd address these hyperlink colors. Notice that they're not in the color palette, so your user won't have any access to them unless they hyperlink text on a slide. And then the colors will change to these automatically when linked and then when clicked on in slideshow mode or as a PDF. So I find it best to just repeat accent colors here rather than trying to use this space to get more brand colors into the palette. But what if you need more than 10 colors, especially when black and white are taking up 20% of it? Some brand identity designers have thought this through and will design tons of secondary colors in the PDF or whatever brand guidelines that are incredibly thoughtful and useful for lots of different applications. But then when it comes to PowerPoint, it's like, here's a few colors and some tints where like half of them are useless. And you know your non-designer users are not about to go look up those hex codes from the brand guidelines and manually type them in every time they want to use them. This color palette is from a real PowerPoint template I designed for a client. It's easy to use within PowerPoint. Watch this next video to find out how I get more than 10 colors into the palette while making all these colors easily accessible to my clients with one simple step.